Hello, everyone. Thank you for introduction. I'm very excited that we can meet here today on this very exceptional conference focused on blockchain and IoT to discuss how technology can shape the cities of the future. We all know that in an era where smart technologies digital transformation are shaping various sectors, urban development is not an exception. I think that now we can begin our exploration in the technological foundation of the cities of tomorrow. So just to warm up a bit and familiarize each other and our listeners, I want to ask you just very quick questions. One sentence I think would be enough. First of all, what are the most emerging and fascinating technologies in smart cities in your opinion? So just a question.
So maybe I will start. So hello, I'm Jacek from ORing company, and maybe I will just focus on the solutions and technologies that we use successfully in Europe and even here in Poland. This is IoT technology for smart cities, which is responsible for connecting the streetlights to the cloud platform, for creating some intelligence in the system in order to save the energy and provide some data, right, for maintenance of the system.
Hello, I'm Slawomir from Advantech, Europe. Advantech is the most important player in the industrial computing area. And it's about the emerging technology. I think the most important is the data. So everything which could get the data from the sensors, like industrial IoT, and connecting it, like connectivity using 5G and industrial protocols, like, for example, LoRaWAN, are very, very interesting in these areas. Thank you.
I may use this one. I think so. Yeah, for me, I would even go a step further, not just the data, but for me it's like the digital twin, because you need a reason you do this and something you do and improve with the data, and that's what drives to install more sensors. It's nothing worth if you just have data and can't do anything with it. So I would say this is one of the
Very good. The digital twin, that's also one of the things that I would like to ask later about. Okay, and then just again, one sentence, how the pandemic, do you think it changed the scene from your perspective?
Oh, so basically, I would say it's more about the energy crisis that we had, right? And we still have, and rising energy costs. I think this created a much more bigger interest in solutions that we provide, which are helping basically to reduce the power consumption in the city, right? And save the energy bills, right? So I think that was even a positive impact for us as a manufacturer of this kind of products and systems, because we could see some significant increase of our customer database and basically project pipeline.
In my opinion, COVID-19 has changed very aspect of our life. Firstly, of course, working from home and communication using technology like Teams, like Skype or Zoom. A few years ago, it wasn't possible. I was driving to customer whole country, from the south of Poland, because I'm living in Katowice, up to north to Gdańsk, and it was whole day, and the second day on the comeback. Sorry. So digital transformation was driven by the COVID-19. So I think there are the big aspects of this.
I would go the same direction and add, as we have accelerated digitalization, now we see the risks we have brought in the whole system, as we see increasing number of cyber attacks, and that's an issue that raises now and we have to solve.
You mentioned threats, so I will go to the third and last warm-up question, which would be the biggest threats that you see, but in data gathering.
Okay, so maybe also start again. So yeah, as Rico said just a moment ago, IoT is about gathering data overall, right? And data is valuable, so we can always be aware of some potential cyber attack or crime, right? Which is intended basically for data theft or maybe taking control over the system, right? But I think if you have some proper let's say security policies, if you use the nowadays technologies which are based on 3GPP standards in cellular networks, which is actually used by our products for the streetlight systems, if you have proper access policy, if you have encryption of the data which is sent from the edge to the cloud, I think that the risk of the risk is mitigated to minimum.
From my point of view, we are sharing more and more information about ourselves. So I think it's the most important thing, it's the care about the privacy, about our data by proper regulations using by the commercial sector and of course creating by the government. I think the second thing is that we have a lot of more and more cameras and surveillance solutions. So it is the second aspect.
Yeah, I fully agree on this, and it would have been the same answer. And it's again government there in charge to a big part who has to regulate and give rights to the ones who give their data intentionally or unintentionally.
Okay, thank you. So, Rico, I would like to stay with you for a moment because, like, especially from city perspective, I'm very curious. How can we ensure that smart city technologies are designed and will be deployed with cybersecurity in mind? So, should we wait for some kind of legal regulations? Should we do it by ourselves, as for example, city, or should we do it together with business, or like whose role is it here?
Yeah, that's a good question. And waiting is definitely not an option in my opinion. So everything is better than waiting. What I would say, it's the thing in mind. It's not like the technology to build things secure is not available. It is, but it is this in mind, the culture and the willingness to pay for secure systems. And I'm personally not a big fan of too much regulation, but I think in this case it needs some regulation and even more best practices. And I think that's where public-private partnerships make absolutely sense in exchanging experiences and best practices, and also the companies itself with each other, because we all need to learn and adapt. So it's a bit of all, but waiting is not an option.
Any one of you, gentlemen, something to add in this area also? No.
Well, let's say we are not an experts in cybersecurity, right? Because let's say we use the general standards in our products that are already provided in a global way, right? So if only the system is using these standards, we believe that the threat is minimized.
So Jacek, you started, so maybe let's go further with that. So what other challenges do you see, but in general, in integration, various system and technologies to create very cohesive, I would say, smart city infrastructure? So of the, providing interoperability and avoiding that kind of, we call it like, technological islands that we have in organizations.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a very important topic, right? Especially in that smart city very often consists of many different systems, many different technologies, which are provided by different vendors, different system integrators, right? On the top of that, we have a lot of sensors which are generating different type of data in different format. So that creates basically a very big complexity of such system and a challenge to integrate. That creates a problem of data silos, maybe the systems are operating separately, they cannot communicate with each other. But I think this problem is slowly being addressed, and I think there is some improvement, right? Because there are a lot of associations and organizations that are building standards for smart cities and IoT. To give an example, even my company is a member of a few of those kind of associations. The example here for streetlight especially is, for example, D4I certification, which is basically enabling a common standardized interface between the lamp, the controller, and the IT data system, which is hosted in the cloud. In this way, that it provides like a standard data format, so everything can understand each other. But I think the problem can also be approached from the opposite side, and I'm not sure if you will agree with me, but maybe when the city and the project stakeholders are working on such kind of a smart city project, they should treat this project more globally, right? So let's say that they should collect some problems that they would like to solve, the pain points that they have in the city, and the technologies that they would like to use, right? From the global perspective, they can always consult with a vendor of such kind of technology. But I think it's all about communication, right? So exchanging the ideas and then taking this global approach rather than working in separate groups, separate teams on specific applications in the city.
Yeah, it sounds very good, but looking sometimes from the perspective of organization and like other cities, I know that they are also struggling because with lights, it's sometimes even in a city we have 5 or 6 different owners, let's say, like city-owned units or departments who are responsible for that. So it's I know it can be very challenging. So
that is challenging, but this is something that we work together to solve together, right? So.
Okay, now Slawomir, to you, I have a question. How do you see the intersection of Industry 4.0 with Smart City evolving in the coming years?
Smart City and Industry 4.0, especially Industry 4.0 is one of the favorite topic because I'm responsible for the factories. And I think there are the very similar words because we have in the both environments, I mean the factory, smart factory and smart city, we have a lot of information. Rachel from IBM told that we will have up to 2030, we will have 29 billions of devices, IoT devices. And it will be something about 55 zettabytes. So it's a huge amount of data. But regarding to your question, I think Rico mentioned about the digital twins. I think digital twins could be used in a smart city project as well as in the industrial project. And the second thing, it's something like a cyber-physical connection. I mean the digital things and the physical things. So it could be very, very interesting in the future. And of course, something which was seen in the past, because if we are talking about the fourth revolution in industry, so we can saw what will happen in the past in the second and third revolution. So there were new solutions, and it will big impact. Sorry, it was a big impact on the workforce. So I think it will be in the future that many people will be upskilled or reskilled. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. We talk a lot about smart city, the evolution, how cities in Poland, in Europe, we look to US, we look to Asian cities, but then sometimes we are proud and we say, oh, we have this smart city project, we did this and this, but sometimes when I look outside of our bubble, I know that people don't really understand or say, okay, but what is it like? I don't understand this example. So I'm curious, and maybe Jacek, you could tell us more from your perspective. How can we measure the success of smart city projects and ensure that cities are delivering real value to both residents but also to businesses to just, discover a bit of mystery, let's say here.
Yeah, so basically, I'm an engineer, so it's hard for me to say something about, social measurement and social happiness, citizens' happiness. So maybe I will also reply this question in a technical way, right?
Yeah, maybe to the interoperability as well. Or
yeah. So basically, I think there are always some mathematical or economy ratios or indicators in the system that helps us to measure exactly how the system is working effectively, right? Like, for example, having the streetlight controller, we can quite precisely actually measure how much power consumption is consumed, right, by the LED lamp in the street. We can do it for an individual lamp, we can do it for a group, for example, lamps located in one street, or we can do it for a complete system, right? This kind of measurement can give us exact number, also for calculation of how much of the energy we are saving, which is directly reflecting later in the energy bill for the city, right? Another thing is that we can also measure the connectivity ratio, right? So this is how we can prove that the system is working stably, right? And for example, using the narrowband IoT technology, which is cellular-based, when we have thousands of lamps deployed in the city, we can achieve over 99% of connectivity ratio in the system, which I think this proves that the system is working successfully and effectively.
I would like to turn the question around and ask you, why do you want a smart city? And after you have answered the question, we can talk about how do we measure success, because building smart cities is no a
goal.
Yeah, it's no goal for itself. So why do we want smart cities? And then let's talk about the measures of success.
I on purpose wanted to hear about the, let's say, more statistic, data, mathematic perspective, because I think that in terms of quality of life, for people and their satisfaction, it's less, let's say, visible projects that matters, and maybe it's even better if they don't feel like a change, like they can't complain, because then that means that they are more satisfied. Just to give you a quick example, we were changing our waste management system some time ago, last year, and there were before, for a few years, there was an app just for people to remind them about the, getting out of the house and leave their wastes, not to forget about it. And then with the changing of the system, we of course had to also provide the new application, or the same one, but only for the city of Poznan. So people didn't really see the change. For them, it was just the same app, but if we wouldn't, take care about it, they would be probably upset because they would forget about dealing with their waste. So and also with the visibility, is the same with cybersec. It's difficult to get the appropriate money for that, because it's not like promotion that you can promote some kind of project or then you have a result, and it's something also invisible, right? And only you can see it when something bad happens. So maybe Rico, a bit of just from your point of view, the biggest cybersecurity threats that we as a city can face, and how we can mitigate these risks.
Well, first, I think if we want to stay really technical, we should separate IT and OT, because the risks are wholly different. But generally, what we see in the IT field is that attackers get more professional and establish business models out of doing cyber attacks. You can rent ransomware as a service now, and you don't need to understand really much. So it gets a business. That's one threat, mostly in IT, because OT is more complex and you need more technical understanding of protocols and stuff like that. And the second thing what scares me a bit is state actors, as we see or may see countries and ideas shifting apart, and state actors get more active, and they have other possibilities and are deeper integrated into the system, also on a hardware level, which is then again relevant for OT. What scares me a bit, actually.
Okay.
State actors? You mean like regulators?
Yeah. Like agencies, national agencies. Like, yeah, the one with three letters or 4 letters.
Okay. Maybe a bit lighter than cybersecurity. And right now to Jacek, again to you. How we can, like using smart city technologies, how they can be used to address issues such as climate change and environmental sustainability. You said a bit about energy before and the lights, so
Yeah,
maybe a bit deeper.
Actually, that's the point of using the technology in smart city application, right? Of course, the main role of the system is to improve the safety of citizens, the satisfaction of living in the city, right? Because we can use the new modern LED luminaires to illuminate the area better. But then the second point definitely is to be more environment friendly, right? Because thanks to the system, we can, of course, continuously and in controlled way manage how the light is, how the brightness level is used in the city, right? And when this is not necessary, we can, of course, lower down the brightness in the areas which doesn't require 100% power of the lamp. Thanks to this, of course, we reduce the energy consumption, but it's also directly related with the carbon footprint, right? Which would be necessary to produce the amount of the energy when the lamp would operate in 100% power. So definitely every type of smart city application has direct or indirect positive impact on environment.
Rico, something you would like to add in terms of also sustainable development?
Yeah, IoT in the end makes processes visible by generating data, and this allows us to measure efforts and results, and that's basic to improve. And I think smart cities, the idea is to optimize and get processes and be more effective using less resources. And IoT enables the measurement of this.
And when we are implementing all of this emerging and great technologies, and we know now, obviously, we try to do it in a sustainable way. But what about like ethical manner and also with respect to rights of residents? Sławek, maybe something from your side.
This is very important. As I mentioned at the beginning, we need to emphasize the importance of the regulation and the government. So this is the significant question, in my opinion. And the other thing, this is the data privacy and how the corporates and the commercials using our data. So regulatory is the most important thing to avoid some bad things. Thank you.
Okay. And think, so you can say a bit more. I will squeeze it more of your experience and knowledge. You were mentioning public-private partnerships. So any more like good practices or maybe some cases from your experience that's, you know, lessons learned, something that can be helpful from both cities and businesses?
Public, private, and private cooperation is important because commercial sector has money and resources to develop some projects, and the government has an environment to test it. So I think the 3P is the most important to develop new projects and test it by the government.
Absolutely agree. We, as a city, love doing pilot projects at the beginning.
Yes, proof of concept is very important.
So we're also very happy that business is open to it. And yeah, we hope that it will be more and more of them, definitely.
Yes, you don't have to buy the whole project. You can test it at the beginning.
Oh yeah, definitely. We are hoping to do it even more and more. We also are announcing in our city, the Poznan City Lab, that will be exactly that kind of purpose, just to help to do more and more of it, because it's sometimes from the point of city, it's difficult because of the regulations, all of the agreement, but it is absolutely essential to do it with bigger companies, but also allow smaller companies, startups, students who have great ideas and they want to try to do something. So, well, like the city is absolutely the best place to do it.
Yes, look at the startups, for example. They have great ideas.
Yep. Oh yes, definitely. So
but don't have money.
So at least what we can do is to provide the district, provide the place, right, and help with all of the things. Yeah. I want to ask also about your predictions for the future. So what do you see from your perspective would be the, disruptive technology in smart cities?
For me, it's breaking up the silos, as you mentioned before. This will enable much more also control, because you measure and then you control, and this loop is not fully closed yet in a lot of cases, and this brings then the ethical point with it, because if you don't know what will be done with your data if you open up the silos, and every company, every departure of a government has access to the data, this is then will get very important. But this will bring the future, I think, and this discussion has to be held.
Jacek?
Yeah, sure. So I totally agree, and I think on the top of that, I think AI may also play some role in the future, especially with big amount of data. We can even add much more intelligence into the systems and some decision making. But regarding the data and integration, I also want to share my experience, what I can see in Asian market, for example, in street lighting applications. They have very popular solution, which is called smart pole, right? Which is enhancing the functionality of a typical smart lighting system with the surveillance to increase the safety, with some weather station to measure the environment conditions, with some solar panels, right? With Wi-Fi access point for citizens to provide internet access, right? We can have a display for some announcements. We can have EV charger integrated with the pole. Like a float sensor, right? All of this data can be integrated into one system from one single pole, right? And another technology, which is also interesting from my perspective, is the 5G, a new radio technology from cellular. And we also have some already proof of concepts in Asia, which prove that the pole in the city can be actually can carry the micro base station of 5G technology for very crowded places with multiple users. So I think this technology will sooner or later also come to our door.
According to the Asian market, which is very, very huge and amazing, in my opinion.
GDPR as well.
No, I thought about one of the project in Asia, in China. It was based on the agriculture, and in agriculture was installed something about 250,000 of sensors. So it is huge and amazing installation, and I think we will observe that our colleague from IBM told that it will be more and more IoT devices installed in the factories, in smart cities, in the agriculture as well as. And I think the cloud computing will be more and more popular, because now we have situations that cloud computing is popular in Asia, but is not popular in, for example, in European factories. Of course, banking is another world, but in factories we have less cloud computing. The second thing is, as Jacek mentioned, 5G. It was a lot of hope, but the prices are still higher. So we will see what will be. And the AI will be present in the future more and more in some projects in factories, in smart building. Maybe in some automation systems, automation-made systems. That means managed by the AI.
I would like to add, as we all increase the data collection, always more sensors, generating more data, embedded computing is already and will gain more interest, as you need to process all the data in place.
55 zettabytes. So it's amazing
That
amount
is
of data.
outstanding, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you already see, we talk about cities of the future, do you already maybe see some future cities of the future, you know, that we could call that way? Can you point them? Or you have some predictions that some certain cities may become and we can define them that way? Or maybe continent, that it will be, you know, a leader. Can we hope it will be Europe, or?
I think what we now can see is it's not a whole city. It's like single projects or a whole factory, a newly built factory, and I think governments like China, who have much more power, are much more faster because they can define standards and everything has to work like this. In Switzerland, you have a very flat democracy, and everyone has to add something and his own wish, and this brings some benefits but also slows down the process of transformation sometimes. So I think that the more strict governments will be faster in this. It also has disadvantages.
So maybe I would just add that in Poland, actually, we have a huge potential here to build smart cities, right? We are just at the beginning of this journey, right? We already have some of the successful projects here, but still a lot to do. And I hope that in the next decade, Poland will be one of the top countries in Europe, which could say that is smart.
Yes, I agree with my colleague. And China was a very good example of the control, especially. But I think AI in the future could help in the traffic jam, for example, in our towns, and I think the protocol likes V2V, that means vehicle to vehicle, or V2X, vehicle to everything, will be developed. So maybe it will be the recipe to the traffic jam.
Okay. I was quietly hoping that you would give me some names in certain cities, but okay, I won't pressure. Okay.
You can say Poznan.
Oh, thank you very much. Let's hope for that.
Olga, I've asked you about the emerging or disruptive technologies, and you mentioned the security issues connected with the interconnectivity. But in your opinion, what do you think the drones can make in the cities? Are the drones the next big thing that will change the way we think about mobility, how the city works, how we move around the city? Or is it just something little for cameras and for marketing specialists to have nice pictures?
Is the question addressed to me?
To all.
Okay.
Whoever.
I can say a few words because I have some experience with drone application, not in the city particularly, but my colleagues in Taiwan have a project, right, where they use drones to monitor the status of the PV plant located outside the city, to monitor the status of each separate panel there in the PV plant with a thermal camera, which helps to get this data. This data is in real time sent to the control center with also some cellular technologies, right? And thanks to this, the operator of the system can already see some abnormality, right, in the field of the panels, so they can already fix the issue.
Yeah, we have a lot of drone startups in Switzerland, and they are successful in inspection cases, like you mentioned, in power plants or where you had to hike up before, and in the field of securing or securing people at big events and like have a look at the flows of people and stuff like that. What I don't see now, there were some pilot projects also in Switzerland, but it didn't work very well, is like transportation of goods, like the post mail comes via drone or Amazon delivers. There are some projects, but as far as I know, I don't know any company in Switzerland running a system delivering goods indoor or outdoor. Does not depend. With drones, it was not successful until now.
You were saying that the new technologies are already in your presentation implemented with special sensors that spread the data where it's located and stuff like that. The drones are the new technology. However, we had an example in my city where the drone constructed by amateur was flying close to the airport, and the plane was close to crash because of that. And this drone was undetected. Do you think the same situation can appear in the theory that or your company is showing that you can connect everything, even if it's old, but there may be always somebody who has want to commit a crime or something, and he will prepare something that is not interconnected. So is there any way to ensure that everything will be connected?
Well, good question. Well, technically you can detect you can detect nearly everything with analyzing frequencies. The question is if this is required. At an airport, I would say yes, but then it's not about connectivity, it's about detection with spectrum analyzers or stuff like this. Well, if you don't want to connect something to the internet, you don't have to, but there are ways to find it if you have searched it.
I was rather thinking, is there a next upcoming solutions that will let us detect something controlled without installing a device in it, like you said about the mayor of New York who was giving the AirTags. Maybe there is a solution where you don't have to install any device, but the device would be installed like a GPS satellite or something, and this will detect it from above the sky.
If you have some communication somewhere, you can detect it in some way with. No, I don't think that would be like a passive sensor which just reacts if you get a connection with your maybe you can add something.
There
to
always
this.
must be like a transmitter and
Yeah.
receiver, right, in any device if it has to be connected, right? So I don't believe there is any technology at the moment, or maybe in the roadmap, that would do what you think, what you have in mind.
Maybe the military has some stealth mode sensors, but
I also saw, do you still want to ask something?
Perhaps, so in the city of Berlin, for example, there are a lot of electric vehicle charging stations all over the place, and they're not branded with the company that built them, but branded with the Lamperie. Do you guys see more such because this is not like, we talked about traffic, lights, and so on, things that cities control without making people pay for them, public services. Do you guys see more possibilities for things like the EV chargers, where it's a collaboration, it's a service that customers pay for, but it's partly organized by the city state?
So it seems your question is rather to a city, right? Not to...
Or more from like the business part, how could you be involved in doing that kind of bigger projects with a city and with other businesses?
So let's say we are not focused, right, on EV charger business, right? So I don't have a clear answer for that, but I agree that there are plenty of vendors, right, and therefore for EV charging. So the market for this is for sure huge, especially of the hype for the electric cars at the moment. But I don't have an experience in this market, so I don't want to give like a clear answer, right? How to handle this? Maybe Slawomir.
This is not my business topic, but it's really sure that if we have more and more EV cars, so we need to more and more EV chargers. The same like with the batteries, because we have in Poland LG factory, we have the Samsung in Hungary, factory of batteries. And we have, I think, one or two other companies which produce batteries. So the EV chargers and the magazines of energy, they are most important to develop of EV cars. And of course, the protocols like I have mentioned that V2V and V2X to cooperate with some part of infrastructure of city.
Okay, so no more to that. Thank you.